Hey, hello again. This band was stewed on the lake. Hey, look what came in the mail. A whole box of Skinny Pop popcorn. White cheddar. I was just wondering if it was better for you than regular popcorn. No, actually, this came from Jordy. Jordy apparently eats a lot of Skinny Pop popcorn. But hey, look what came in the mail. I asked him for some cottonwood bark. These are two pieces that were hiding in the bottom. They're just gorgeous as little pieces. And I can't thank you enough, Jordy. Hey, thanks a lot, man. You rock. This is dinosaur bark, as Jordy says, and it's the good stuff. And This video is a little long and rambling, and just kind of does crazy things. There's no value in it whatsoever to most of you. Cottonwood bark is wonderful to carve as a power carver, except for the dust. And I've seen people carve with regular knives and chisels and that sort of thing, and I've tried it, and I don't like it. It's kind of shaly, but look at this. This is a triple, and it's going to take a lot of imagination to use these pieces. These are huge, wonderful pieces, and just an astronomical amount of money if you had to buy these things. And then I know what it costs Jordy to ship these. So once again, I'm in Jordy's debt for stuff, and let me know, Jordy, if you need anything. Obviously, I'll help you out. But thanks a lot, man. This is exactly what I needed, and it's going to take care of me for the rest of the year. What will I carve out of these? Well, I'll carve all kinds of little fairy houses and that sort of thing, and then old man spirit faces and whatever strikes me. And here's something neat. I put some stuff. I did two things out of a couple pieces of this. That one's wonderful, and you got to look at the shape of them and stuff and whatnot. And I know some of you are going to say, hey, what the heck is going on in the background there on that plaque in there? That happens to be the last custom piece that I'm working on. And once I get that finished, I probably got another 20 or 30 hours of carving to do on that. But once I get that done, then I'm back on track to do different things. But obviously I need to take a break in between carving, serious carving, where I have to actually pay attention to what I'm doing. So I wanted to show you something. Don't ever throw these little pieces away. Now, Jordy has shown you before, and I've shown you before, we'll take and grind this off because the top outer portions of the bark are sometimes shaly. Don't throw them away, and here's why you don't want to throw them away. This was done probably 2 weeks ago, and it was just in between projects. Sometimes I just get bored with working on a commission piece and grab something and look at something, and I start to throw things out. So I was thinking, well, this is a really neat piece that broke off the top of one. What can I do with that? So I turned it into a welcome sign, and it went down to the gallery a couple days later after it was finished. And I think it had $20, $25 on it, maybe 30, I don't remember. But it sold before it even got put on the wall. And talk about carving, there's really not a whole lot of carving involved in this. I did this probably in 30 minutes, farting around with it. So I just laid out a welcome on the front of it. I kind of had a concept, and I did a bowl that came with the piece. You see, I drew it with a pencil, kind of tried to get it centered, and then I went back with the marker after I determined where the letters out. This is not the easiest way to, it is the easiest way to do it. It's not the scientific way to do it. Scientifically, you would measure out your letters. The W would get 1.5 squares, and the M's would get 1.5 squares, and then you would lay out the number of spaces that you needed, and you would center it on there. So I just wanted to see what this looked like with a little bit of bark still left on the outside. Bark on bark. There you go. So it turned out really kind of cool looking, and it's confusing, I'm sure, to people what it is. I think they think if you looked at it and no one was explaining it to you, you wouldn't know that the whole thing was a piece of bark. You would think that this was a branch that someone had cut on a bandsaw or saw and left the bark on the outer portion of it. Well, that's not the case, as you guys know. This is all bark. So here's a quick rundown in the middle. Then I'm going to go back and show you some of these other pieces that Jordy sent me. But this was a piece that broke off in the center. I lined it out. I took my burner, which is a micro burner from PGL Enterprises over, it's a dual, and I outlined the letters. And once I get those letters outlined, this is the same as a stop cut. You could do this with your Dremel if you don't have a burner. I just like to use the burner. Gives me a real clean line. And then I come back in. You can see that's a green cuts-all. And you see that I went all the way around those letters, leaving them proud. And cut that welcome sign down. And then I'm going to come back here in a minute and hollow that out a little bit, but I'm going to leave the letters proud with a little bit of a dish around the lettering. And I really like the grain pattern that's in this bark. It's a shame to cover it up by painting it or whatever if you can get away with it. And I just throw some shellac on this at the end. And this is a real quick, and you're not going to learn anything. So there's a little ball, and I'm just rounding out, cupping, dishing out the background real quick. You can see I don't have the dust collector up and going, and that's one of the things about this bark. It is miserable. I'm sure it's not good for you. I don't wear a mask. I should, and I need to clean up my shop, my studio, or the stuga. But when I'm done dishing that out, I highlight those letters one more time, and then I will come back and put some shellac on it. So there it is, pretty much finished. I just sanded the ends of it. There's the back of it. I did sign it. It's hand-drawn letters. And then we put some shellac on it, some amber shellac. And I really like the amber shellac. I'll take the amber shellac, put it on there, put a couple coats on, take some steel wool, some 4-0 steel wool, and rub that down a little bit, and then I'll just put a little bit of wax on there. There's the finished product. So nothing exciting there on that, but it has a little nail hole in the back. People like little plaques and things that stick on their wall. And you see in the background, I did a candy holder out of another piece that came. But here's that dinosaur bark. Isn't that gorgeous looking? And I'm looking it over and seeing if anything strikes me as wanting. Now, this one wants to be a spirit man, spirit face. I can tell. But each of these is about 2 foot long. Some of them are huge. And this is what Jordy would call that dinosaur bark. This is a gorgeous piece. I probably will use, each of these will end up being most likely 2 pieces. Look at this triple. I don't know what this is going to be. I suspect it's going to be kind of I might put a fairy city hanging on a cliff wall and get a whole bunch of them in there, 10 or 15, 20 houses. But look at this stuff. And you could see on that one had a little bit of a crack in the center of it. And that's where the bark would split. And typically you would take all that off to carve. Otherwise it'll flake off when you carve it. But look at these gorgeous pieces. And this all came from Jordy. And all I asked was for a little bit of bark. And he did me a great favor. Now this one's going to be kind of neat. I don't know what's going to happen with that. There's another gorgeous piece. And you can turn that either way, but you need to take that bark and look at it once. If you can get a hold of some bark, there's some suppliers here in the States and whatnot, and you can go over and look at Jordy's stuff. And this box was just completely full. So there'll be a future video, and that future video will show this. It's a little candy dish. I like the looks of this piece. I like the way the shale was on it, so I left the end there. This has a shellac finish on it. I'll probably put a couple more. But hey, this is what came from Jordy, and I want to thank you, Jordy, and I owe you. And I don't know if that skinny popcorn will work or not, but if it works, let it go. But thanks a lot, man. You rock, and I owe you. This has been Pan with Stu on the Lake. Like, comment, and subscribe.